The latest job losses are at Ulster Bank, which is UK owned by the part nationalised UK bank, Royal Bank of Scotland. It's 950 jobs, 600 in the Republic and 350 in Northern Ireland. And again, this is a kind of natural consequence of what's happened in banking in the last 3 to 4 years. You've seen banking activity levels plummet because of the property crash and also because of the crisis in the banking market and the fact that banks themselves are struggling both with their capital and their funding. So you have this situation now where you're seeing banking levels coming off employment levels where Irish banks employed more than 40,000 people and the banks are shrinking in size. So again, Ulster Bank's reduction in staff levels is 950 is on top of 1,000 staff that they let go in 2009. So you've seen almost 30% of their staff levels go, and no bank has really come close to that kind of levels of reduction in staff numbers. The only bank, Irish Bank, that's come close to that would be Irish Bank Resolution Corporation, which is the former Anglo-Irish Bank and former Irish Nationwide Building Society. They've seen staffing levels come down substantially, but again, you see Ulster Bank being much more aggressive in that. And Ulster Bank would have been one of the biggest lenders into the mortgage market, and the mortgage market has really shrunk such a degree in value that a lot of staff are no longer required. A huge number of the staff that are going at Ulster Bank would have been based at the bank's head office here in Dublin. So again, reduction in levels leads to reduction in staffing requirements and the number of staff that's needed at the banks. We had too many banks for a market of this size for 4 million people. We had a huge number of retail banks, and domestic banks, we've seen themselves, the banking sector shrink in size, coming back to 2 pillar banks. We've seen Education Building Society be moved into AIB. We've seen the merger of Anglo-Irish Bank and Irish Nationwide into one institution to be wound down over 10 years. So you have the creation of a banking system based around 2 main banks, 2 pillar banks in AIB and Bank of Ireland. Irish Life and Permanent, which owns Permanent TSB, which was the biggest mortgage lender in the market, has been restructured quite radically. Irish Life will be sold eventually, and there's a question mark over the future of Permanent TSB. So again, as a natural consequence of the banking crisis, you're seeing that overbanked environment really being reduced in size to 2 main domestic players. Well, I think there are going to be further job losses. The Irish Bank Officials Association has said there's expected to be about 4,000 more job losses this year. You're going to see 2,000 job losses at AIB. Those losses were announced last year, but they weren't identified as to where they would be. So the new management team inside an AIB, led by the new Chief Executive, David Duffy, has yet to decide where those 2,000 jobs are going to be. Also, you're going to see further job losses. There's a question mark over what happens to 300 staff at the insurer Aviva. Those staff are being transferred to AIB as a result of the ending of the joint venture between AIB and Aviva, the Arc Life venture. So really we're not quite sure what's going to happen to those 300 jobs, and that's in addition to the 950 jobs, which is about half the staff at Aviva, as to what's going to happen to those 300 staff. And so there's been, really, the industry has seen some major job losses and still to see more to come this year. Well, I think the banks are struggling to provide credit. Really, lending has dried up within the Irish banks. The mortgage figures are way down from what they were at the peak of the market. Really, there's a dysfunctional banking sector at the moment because of capital hoarding by the banks and the lack of liquidity in the market. Also, there's a lack of interest amongst buyers to buy property, so the demand for mortgages is down, as well as the demand for business lending is down as well. So again, I don't think there's a consequence for shortage of mortgages, because really the size of the banking sector is shrinking to meet the activity that currently exists in the banking market.